And good morning, good afternoon, good evening, everybody. I appreciate your time today. So as Eleanor mentioned, I'm Brian Esposito. What I've done over the last 20 years is I've built a holding company. To date, there's 61 entities inside that company as of the end of last month. And then we have over 150 joint ventures around the world. So what I'd love to do is go into a little bit of my history and some of the experiences that we've done that were successful. But more importantly, the best use of I believe for my time when speaking in these types of forums or back when we can do this live again is actually work with the people that are in the room or on this webinar and give me some problems you may be experiencing. Use me to help you in whatever you want to accomplish. So one of the things I love to everybody to think about is how do we all get here at this moment? You have a lifetime of decisions, experiences, actions, lack of actions, mistakes that led us all to be in this room together or on this webinar together. And to me, that's always just blows my mind. Everything you've done today led to where we are right now. So I'm a believer that everything happens for a reason. People you meet are there for a reason. Even the problem people you meet. Anybody that's ever, I'll say, hurt me, taken advantage of me, used me, ultimately I have to thank them most of the time because they gave me a learning experience. I know what to look out for going forward. But also I tend to meet amazing people through a person that may have been a problem while you're building your company, while you're trying to launch a new product, a new service, a new technology. So with that being said, after 20 years, I've really have a good gauge as to who I bring into our teams or inner circles. And you got to be very careful as to who you really show who you are, what you're doing, and what you want to accomplish, because the wrong person can destroy and damage that entire journey. And it could just take the wind out of your sails. And that's the worst thing as an entrepreneur. You're going out, you're risking everything to go out and build something that you believe has value. Ultimately, I always believe entrepreneurs, money's a byproduct of what they want to do. And I am amazed by the people that take that risk and say, hey, this is what I want to accomplish. I'm not going to do that normal 9 to 5. I'm going to take a second mortgage on my house. I'm going to go ask friends and family to help support me. That's a strong person. So when you have all those risks on the line, you really want to make sure that you surround yourself with the right people, which is why I really start with the team. And the team is your core management, but also it's so important to be very strategic as to who you bring for outside assistance. I don't know how many on this webinar have a structure of advisors or strategic advisors, but they tend to be some of the most important people in your journey because they're spread out all over the world if you do it correctly. And they're involved in so many different industries and organizations. They can open up doors for you and they're there to help you. So there's no ulterior motive. They're not necessarily taking a salary. Yes, there's probably some sort of equity stake as they continue to help you. But an advisor's role in an organization is such a more lax and exciting role where you're actually talking with somebody that's there for all the right reasons. That's to support you. One of the other things I've always done wrong is for a long time was I was very narrow-minded into where I was selecting my team from. If we're opening up a company in Dallas, I would look around Dallas and pull what I believe are the best people in that area. That was a mistake from me. Look what we're doing now during COVID and being under quarantine. There's people communicating and coordinating and doing big deals. They never even had a table with each other anymore. And if you want to keep it sports related, look at it like the Major League Baseball and the New York Yankees. Their scouts are not walking around the Bronx looking for the next best player. They're all over the world looking for talent. So that's a really important thing, is to open up your world, utilize things like LinkedIn, which I've used pretty well over the last 10 years, where built a very large network. If you go and look at our profiles and the companies that we're involved in, we are industry agnostic. We have holdings in media, technology, oil and gas, energy, aviation, space, maritime, big in hotel and real estate development. And then we have a tremendous growing enterprise in sports technology, and a separate holding company of any crypto, blockchain, and hemp or CBD related products. take a pause if anybody has any questions as to what I'm going through now, or anybody that disagrees with me, throw it at me. I'd love to chat with you guys. And we'll just keep moving forward. So the strategy.
Great. I think we'll ask someone a question. What do you think, Brian?
Up to you. Lead away.
Yeah. David, Adri. How are you?
Good.
Great. Long time no see. David, do you have any experience to share about selecting your team members? Anything specific, any disadvantage or advantage that you found in the people you're looking for?
As far as consultants or employees?
Employees, for example.
Employees, well, I believe that the first 10 employees of the companies are the most important ones, because that's really the foundation that you put in any company. This will actually take from, it's like, one will bring another, which will keep the same the same vibe and the same thing that's you kind of like chose. So the first 10 companies that the CEO is chosen will actually take that into the foundation of the bigger company, and will grow into hundreds and hundreds of employees. And that's really important to choose them right.
Absolutely. And great presentation, David. I saw what you've done on eMaze on a prior call. So congratulations.
Thank you.
On all your work.
Thanks.
Ryan, go ahead. Thank you, David.
I'll go right into strategy. So an example of a product that we launched and we attached it to the sports industry with some of our technologies is we launched an energy drink called Crypto. It's the energy drink market's massive. It's growing tremendously. You have big players like Red Bull, Monster, Bang Energy now is doing tremendous things. But what we did on the strategy of that is, okay, it's another energy drink. But what's cool about it is we want to do things to make people make crypto more accessible. Because one of the things with crypto and blockchain is people are either intimidated by it, they don't understand it, or they don't know how to get involved. So we came up with an entire strategy on every time you buy a crypto energy drink, you earn one of our crypto coins, which is powered by SonoCoin. SonoCoin, if you haven't heard about it, it's the first audible cryptocurrency in blockchain where we can actually move data through sound. We can do payments through sound in a very secure and unique fashion. So that was a great strategy where we allowed people to get involved in the crypto world, start to understand it, and create a utility where they don't have to do anything. You make it seamless. They buy a product, they earn a coin. And then now you start seeing companies like Pepsi, they've released a Pepsi coin with their products and their beverages. That's a way where we believe we can do mass adoption with new technologies and new IP, where it's usually just a core audience, but how do you make it more mass scale? How do you make it apply to everybody's world and everybody's life? So that was a great strategy we did with one of those products, how we related it to the sports industry. We now are partnered with two of the largest esports news networks. One is called Esports and the other one is ESTV, with a reach of over 300 million people. So by having a cool product, kind of a cool name, attaching it to some of our other IP and our other holdings, we're very quick and easy to create a product, come up with the concept and launch it. Because we're involved in so many different industries, it's all about matchmaking. It's okay, we're holding this, we want to create that. And the other very important thing as far as your strategy goes is who are your banking partners, who are your accounting partners, and your legal partners. What I've found is selecting a really strong accounting firm will be invaluable to your organization. Not only do you pay them for your services and your typical accounting, but if you pick a really large, even sometimes a global firm like we've done, we can tap into that, and that cost can now become an actual add value or revenue generator, where we go to our advisors or our partners there and we say, okay, we're launching this product. What other clients of yours can we speak with that we may not already know about? Who can we strategize with and put a great new formula together by utilizing what is typically a cost on your balance sheet and paying an accounting firm for your taxes, your auditing, or your year-end financials. So we're always looking at how we add value no matter what. I go into every room from when I was 19 to now 39, never with my hand out. I go into a room and say, okay, I have this or I want to do that. You guys are doing this. How can we do something bigger and stronger together? And it's worked out very well for me. Yes, I've made plenty of mistakes and didn't correctly articulate what I wanted to do. Starting to get more and more confidence as I get older as to knowing what I want to accomplish and correctly articulate what the goal is. So when you're picking your strategic partners and you want to reach out to them, don't be afraid to say I need help. Don't be afraid to say I'd love to work with you. This is what we're doing. And is there a way we can work together? Whether they're a startup or up to a Fortune 100 company, we're all human. And if you can connect with somebody and show that you have genuine interest with what they're doing and what you're doing, and you believe together, you can create a new vertical, a new business revenue channel, even if it's just great new PR that shows momentum behind your startup. There's so much that you could do just by hitting the pause button for a moment. Look at other companies or other organizations that you may even look at as competitors. I mentioned on a previous demo call that I was asking questions, most of my biggest competitors on paper are actually my best friends, and we do great work together, and we create markets together, and we add value together because, like I said before, we're all in this journey together, and I believe we're all here to help one another. So one of the things I love to do, which is why I'm grateful to begin working with Hype, is open up your portfolio of current and future companies. Let's take what I've built, all of our assets, all of our IP, all of our technologies and partners, and let's help your startups become successful. Let's help them become faster to market. Let's help them become profitable. Let's make Hype the most accomplished fund of portfolio of companies where they're all succeeded. You see so many times where these unicorn companies take a holding company through the roof, and they may have hundreds or even thousands of investments, but one hits, and that holding company now is a big success. I'm more interested in helping everybody. All these little successes make the whole rising tide go high. Have all of your interests all work together and all create value together. And that's what I've done, not what I set out to do when I was younger, but ultimately, as I kept creating new partnerships, launching new products, building technologies, it just morphed into, okay, this is my role in this world. I believe I'm here to help people. I believe I'm a connector, and I love to be able to reward companies like yours by using me. Tap into my experiences. Let's work together. Let me introduce you to our investment banking arms. One of the things I want to go into is being self-sufficient in your operations and creating cash flows. So I don't know if you want me to take another pause and see if anybody has any thoughts or questions, Eleanor.
Jesse, go ahead.
Yeah, this working together aspect, I also really think it's actually the only way, because there always will be unicorns, not just in the dreams of my daughter, but also in real life. But then we have all the spectrum, and there's so much knowledge when we share it openly, it just empowers the whole ecosystem. And especially in the times like this, there is no other way of creating the change. So it's really, really important. So happy that you brought it up.
Oh, thank you for saying that. Yeah, it's great when we're involved in so many different industries, and because the way my mind works, a lot of people ask me, how do you control all that? Well, the way I operate, the more floating around in my head, the faster I connect to things. So we've launched over 1,200 products over the last 20 years. So those are products, services, technologies, or relaunched antiquated brands that I believed had value. And again, it all works when you have a large reach. So any of your companies that, you might be sitting on IP that you might have built a long time ago that becomes relevant again. A lot of the technologies that we've built and we weathered the storm were too soon. I look at Venmo now, and one of the amazing company, I built that as a company called Payback in 2007 when I saw this entire micro lending economy going on. And knew that there was billions of dollars being exchanged just from family members, friends to friends. And our mission was to create financial responsibility and show that, yeah, they say money's the root of all evil, but it doesn't have to be. And I always believe people may want to pay somebody back, and they just, you know, whether they forget or they don't have it. So we built a great technology, we built a great mechanism, really fun tongue-in-cheek reminders to pay somebody back. I walked into Hearst Media's office without an appointment. They owned one of the largest media companies in the world. And I walked out with the rights to Popeye's Wimpy as our marketing character. And the whole tagline was, I'll gladly pay you on Tuesday for a hamburger today. That was Wimpy's character on Popeye. And the problem was I was 10 years too soon. So what we've done was we always managed that tech. We always updated it. And now it's coming back where we're going to apply it into some of our other holdings where I don't have to go and license it from somebody else. I don't have to cut the revenue model and do a revenue share with somebody else. We built it. We had it. Just shame on me being way too early. And so many entrepreneurs and inventors are either way too early or which I think sucks because I've been there plenty of times, or they're just too afraid to make that leap and live with regrets. And that's what I don't want to see. That's one of the things I love jumping into entities like Hype, meeting people like you and companies like you. I want to see everybody succeed. And one of the reasons I want to see everybody succeed was I didn't have that support system behind me. I've learned that some of my best friends, as it related to me succeeding and going out and working hard, they didn't want me to do that. And that's their own demons. That's their own problems. And now I've come to terms with, you know, again, keep great positive people around you. This is your life. This is your world. And go after whatever you want. The important thing is just try not to hurt anybody along the way. And if you do, by accident, hopefully not maliciously, do what you can to make it up to them. Find a way to make amends to it. Next on the list I'd like to talk about is, well, I touched on a little bit with joint ventures and organizational value. So one of the most important things as a startup or whatever series you're in, when I come in and want to help help you or your company or your team, it is, okay, what are you raising money at right now? So let's just make up numbers. You got a $10 million valuation, you're raising $1 million. Obviously, there's a dilution of 10% somewhere, whether it's the founders, across the board, everybody that's holding equity. So, okay, before you do that, let's see if we can find ways where we can make money, and I'll go into that next. But secondly, maybe we can make you more valuable. Maybe we can help your dilution of your raise by making you worth 20 million, 50 million, 100 million. And you go back to, who do I work with? What are our holdings consisting of? And how can we throw in more partnerships, paid pilot programs, maybe create an entirely new use case for your tech, your products, your services. And now as you're doing your raise, it's a lot easier. The potential investors are seeing growth. They're seeing new contracts being created. They're seeing new opportunities. Then you have that whole FOMO thing where they're afraid of being left out. So, okay, maybe we have a quicker play with anybody that you're potentially already speaking with to get them involved while we're building new value, or before your valuation goes to another level because we put a new deal together, or we open up a new opportunity where you can actually start to create revenues and become self-sufficient. That's where I also really am an advocate on with any type of companies. You have to find a way to make revenue. I think we're all kind of delusional sometimes when you start reading these firms and these companies are raising hundreds of millions of dollars off of billions of dollars of valuation, where they're not actually that valuable, but they're getting the capital. And a lot of times I used to sit back and feel defeated, like, oh, I got this company, I have better stuff than this company. They just raised $300 million and they're worth $3 billion and they do, I don't know, $1 million in revenue. So there's going to be a day of reckoning again, much like 99 and 2007, where you have to create revenue. You have to have free flowing cash flow. That's going to be not only the value of your company and the multiplier of your company when you go and sell it, but more importantly, that's going to allow you to grow. That's going to allow you to use the capital that you're trying to go and raise it within your organization. There's ways to make money off of your products. There's ways to make money off of your services. The problem lies, a lot of people just don't know where to go. They don't know how to go out and get it. They don't know how to ask for it. Took me a long time to figure that out. So I love being able to step in and say, okay, before you raise money and dilute yourself out of your own company, which I never want to see, let's go out and find you revenues. Let's go out and find you capital. Let's go and find you sponsors. Again, whatever your company is, your product offering is, there's ways to get it. And then that leads to you running your company. That leads to you having fun. That leads to you being energized. Because the moment you start to run low on capital, you get anxiety. The moment you run out of capital, you get even more anxiety. And now you're not running your company anymore. You are out raising capital. So you've hit this hamster wheel approach where you never really catch up, because you're either not making money, you're running out of money too fast, or you find yourself on this continuous capital raise, and before you know it, you're less than a 50% owner of your own company, and you're working for somebody else. And I think that's, as an entrepreneur, I never want to see anybody in that position, because I love what entrepreneurs do. I love what founders do. And I want to support that. Any questions, any thoughts?
What's up, man?
What's up?
I feel like you just explained me the last 10 years, having an invention and, basically organically growing it and, going after capital. Over the last 5 years, I've started putting together pitch decks and getting in contests and stuff like that. But this advisory board you mentioned, when you add people, do you just give them capital without any, or you give them equity without any capital, just for their kind of like likeness, I guess, in a sense?
Yeah, and great question. Wish you nothing but continued success, and you're going to knock it out of the park. So
I appreciate that.
It's case by case. A lot of advisors, they could be friends. You could also kind of be coworkers and colleagues on other projects together, and you just work well together. Those are the best ones to find, where they just join your team. They want to help. And then there's other advisors that have to stay consistent to their model, and they get maybe they get an advisory fee, a nominal fee per month, and then they earn equity as they continue to stay along, invest with you. Unfortunately, there's not one answer, because every advisor is going to be different based upon their ask and what they want to do. But yeah. I think they're the most crucial part of an organization, because again, they're there to help, and an advisor doesn't want to put their name on something that they believe may fail. So they're there extra more to help. An employee, how they can, hopefully, now's a little bit different with job losses all over the world, but an employee can say, hey, F this, I'm out of here, and go work somewhere else. And you just invested all this time, money, training, education into them, and they're gone like smoke.
Yeah. And that's what I found usually happens is, like, I'm grinding. I'm never giving up. I'm going to keep going. But, at a certain point, people are like, well, it just hasn't gotten to where, the equity is going to be worth it. So I'm out of here. You know what I'm saying? And then you basically got to start over. And then it's like, well, fine, I'll just do it by myself. But then you realize you can't do it by yourself. You know what I mean? So it's like.
I hear you. I've been there. Yeah. I'm sure I'll be there again.
Right.
I'm sorry. Yeah. I'm sorry you went through that, but the good thing is.
No, it's good. I'm glad I'm going through it, because you're saying you went through the same thing, and I want to be where you're at, so I'm good with it.
I might want to be where you're at, so let's. Might be in a better place than you think, but the cool thing, when you're in the storm, you don't realize what's happening, but you got to thank these people that didn't stick around with you, because they weren't there for you.
Right. Right.
You can't be mad at them. They have their own bills, and
now I have all of it. So exactly. I just got to be careful going in the next round. But I feel you. You're doing great, man. I'm loving this. I'm getting so many notes.
Keep kicking ass.
Ryan, I've got a quick question for you about what you were just saying about revenue. So if you're
the winner has a question for me, go ahead.
Oh, and it's embarrassing. If you're developing a new piece of hardware, obviously it costs a lot of money. You need capital to do that. There's a temptation to try and generate some revenue from, I don't know, selling little bits of it, prototypes or whatever else it is. But that can be an enormous distraction, or it can end up even with some liability issues because you haven't properly developed your product yet to the point where you can sell it. would you still advise looking at alternative ways that you might bring some revenue in, whether it's through, I don't know, trying to sell merchandise of your brand or something like that? What would your advice be on that?
On the hardware play, one of our other holdings is a company called Nodal. We become the world's largest global wireless IoT network. But more importantly, the original use case was, well, it still is a powerful use case, is asset tracking, where we can track pallets, we can track tools on construction sites, all on a wireless network that doesn't rely on internet or cell connection. So we can spin up a wireless network utilizing these cell phones with our tech that's built into either our app or other people's apps. But what I'm getting at to answer your question, there's always a new project or a new journey where I have to sit back and say, I got to figure this out. And I always de-risk capital because I didn't in the past. So if we're gonna put money up personally, if we're gonna ask some of our capital partners to put money up, it has to be de-risked. There has to be a reason behind it, a revenue generator behind it. So with Nodal during COVID, we realized that our network can be used for contact tracing. So we developed, which now is a Juniper Research Award-winning Best Enterprise Solution wearable for employees to get back to work. We partnered with a major hardware company, hardware distribution company, Fortune 200 public entity. The company's Avnet, if you don't know who they are. And again, because of the relationship that I had with Avnet and still do, we learned that there's ways to finance projects inside of large hardware manufacturing companies. There's ways to build a use case in those companies where you can actually go and find a pilot program. You can get minimum MOQs done just to get the product into production, the molds done, all the components ordered. And when you're working with a company like Avnet, you're getting the best margins on pricing because of their buying power. They do north of 20 billion a year. So we learned, well, we are going through a series with Nodal, but also because of the relationships, which are crucial, and learning more about how these companies operate, we were actually able to co-build a product with them and not necessarily put out the capital you would expect to have to put out or any capital at all because there's a big play behind it. And because of that, that entity has north of 4 million units with interested Fortune 1000 companies all over the world. So to answer your question very longly is with the right relationships, the right story, going to hardware manufacturing components, unless you have some IP that's so crucially important that you need to build it in your garage or in your own facility, you can go and partner with companies and with the right play, they'll get in bed with you together and help you with the cost and the financing. So I hope that answered your question.
Yeah, no, it did. Thank you. I have spoken to Avnet in the past, but not to that level of partnership. So that's interesting. Yeah.
Well, I'd be glad to introduce you to our colleagues there to see if we can help you push that forward.
That'd be great. Thank you. Yeah.
My pleasure. Anybody else want to hit me?
Anyone else?
Yeah, I have something. I wanted to know what you were giving up in exchange for that relationship.
Just my time, which you can't put a value on.
No, so you didn't have, there was no equity exchange or
I thought you meant to Mark. No, so we with Avnet we developed, obviously we'll be buying the components and the equipment from them, so they have their margins in there, and basically because of the relationship, we just put all of our resources we could towards it in building a product because of the times that we believe isn't a one-off. There's going to be a COVID-20, there's going to be another infectious disease. We believe this to be a long-term vertical of Nodal where contact tracing, secure contact tracing, privacy-focused contact tracing, which is everything we've built with our network, is all privacy-focused. So we built the world's largest global secure network. So whatever the use case we can utilize that network for that comes up, we're going to go all in and as quickly as possible. And from when we focused on this early this year, we moved fast. Within 6 months, we had the news out, we had the partnership announced, we had the products into development, and we were onboarding enterprise companies to order these products. So that doesn't just happen. A lot of people think, oh, he's an overnight success or she's an overnight success. No, that person busted their ass for X amount of years. They put everything on the line. I have an article out that I just did it for therapy. And when I wrote the article was over 7,000 nights of my overnight success. So I wrote it to just kind of clear my soul. And people don't understand that. There's so much that goes into what everybody does that's on this webinar. Whether this is all that you do and you're focused on that company, you're giving it everything you got because you want it to succeed. A lot of people are working regular jobs while they're doing their startup and juggling families and stress, and you're putting your health on the line. Everybody that sits back in that corporate gig or any other job where they can kind of pick on you and say, why are you doing that, until you succeed, and then they're going to want to hang around you and be your best friend. That's why I think it's so important to only surround yourself while you're on this journey with positive people that want to help you, people that will give you their time and be genuine about wanting to help you, and not be a snake in the grass and secretly want to see you fail. I'm speaking from experience. I assume it happens all over the world, so hopefully you don't go through it. But I think it's important that you go through it because you need to know what to look out for. Just like any athlete, they train, they work their ass off, and they have slumps. Some of the best athletes in the world hit hurdles. They don't perform. But you know what they do? They work harder. They train harder. They focus more. And there's no difference between an athlete and what we're doing. We just have to perfect our skill. And the most important skill is judging people and who you need to allow into your organization, and who's actually going to add value, and who's there for all the right reasons.
Okay. Thank you.
Did I answer your question?
Yeah, you answered the question. I mean, what I really got was that they're a customer of yours, or excuse me, you guys have a relationship where they're always going to get paid because they're a customer, you're a vendor, so it works out for them with that long-term relationship.
Exactly. And the people ordering this product, they're very credible companies, so they know they're going to get paid from the end client. So in this situation, it's a very risk-free opportunity where we just both went all in and created something incredible.
All right. Sounds good.
Thanks, pal.
Hi, Brian. I'm curious to hear when you the first time reach out to someone who you don't have an established relationship with. How do you go about it? Because oftentimes there is the opportunity to create value, and then what is a good way to to show them the mutual benefit? Do you have some tips about this first time approach? Because oftentimes there is a benefit and it is quite clear, but you are one of many people who knock on that person's door.
Yep. No, so I get that it's maybe easier for me than other people. I've never had an issue speaking or getting in front of somebody. To me, not that it was a game, but I knew if they saw what I wanted to accomplish, we'd all win. So I always feel, I mentioned before, is just go into that conversation with, love what you're doing. Here's what I'm doing. I believe there's a way we can work together. And again, again, this is my opinion, because if you can go and get money in a contract, always do that. But I always believe in building the relationship. I'm a very long-term thinker, and I want it to be a long-term play. So I don't go into that conversation where I want to get paid tomorrow. I'll weather the storm, and some things, it could be a decade out. But if you go in there and you believe that organization is going to be a powerful play for your company, even if it's just credibility, even if it's just to give you some momentum, figure out a way where you can work together and ask them to just give you a pilot project to show you that there's value here. Doesn't mean they have to pay you for it. If you can get it, like I said, get it. And it doesn't mean that they have to put a lot of resources dedicated to it. Just find a way to work with them. And if you gave me an example of who it is, I can probably give you some more details, but it's all guns on the table. How can we work together? There's no ulterior motive. If you come across genuine, you come across, again, that you're very excited about what they're doing. And more importantly, I've learned this because we're in a lot of different industries, but if you build relationships with people and you're successful at maintaining those relationships, it doesn't mean you go and ask them, you only contact them when you need something. hey, say Merry Christmas, Happy New Year, Happy Hanukkah, hope your family's well. When you're building relationships, especially with people you may work with in the future, you got to just let them know, be a squeaky wheel. Let them always think about you, hit them every chance you can without being annoying. But what I'm getting at is if you form a relationship with a C-level or a management level employee at a company because you want to work with that company, there's a good chance that one day they leave. And when they leave and go somewhere else, because you were very successful at managing that relationship, maybe you did a project with that company, maybe you're still working with that company, that person now opens up another company for you. They're most likely doing a parallel move somewhere else. And because you were so good at nurturing that relationship, you now have 2 customers. And then that person could leave again. I had a few, when I was building our beauty company, I had these beauty reps. I mean, they moved 3 or 4 companies a year. And I was getting all these brands because they just kept moving and they knew I'd be placing orders. But I would never have gotten those brands if that rep wasn't a friend of mine or we didn't build a relationship. So the same thing applies in so many different industries. And it's one of the things that exhausts me, but I know I'm good at, is maintaining relationships with people. And it's not for money. The money's a byproduct. You can't articulate that relationship's sole purpose is for money, because the other person will not receive that well, and you won't nourish that relationship.
Thank you.
You're welcome. But again, if you had a specific situation, I could be happy to walk you through it, and maybe I even work with that company. I could help you make an introduction.
Okay. Anyone else? Jamas?
Yeah,
Look
hi.
like you have a question.
Well, no, I was just listening with real interest to all of this because one of the things that we found is that there's lots of people saying, you know, this is what you need to do, and these are the people that you need to have contact with and everything. That's really good advice, and it sort of changes your outlook, I guess, in how you approach these things from an early stage startup. But one of the real difficulties that we've got is actually knowing where to look for the people in the first place, kind of thing. Yeah. So we've got a team that's completely fired up and infused and lots of direction, lots of focus and everything, but we haven't got anyone there to listen to in some sense, you know, because we just don't know where to look for the people. So I wondered if you had any sort of tips or thoughts as to where you go to look for these people in the first place that are willing to give up their time to help you, that are willing to sort of help you grow the business and so on.
Well, yeah, I would say, again, like if you gave me more details of what you do, I can probably give you a dozen. But if you look at whatever your product or your industry is, obviously it's sports related, but if you look at what your offering is, you can do research on who's the authorities in those spaces. Another kind of trick that I'll share with the crew, just keep it between us. Go and build relationships with journalists in those industries. Those writers are I should say this: creators, content creators, writers, entrepreneurs. They're all about creating something. You always want to explain what you want to do with someone that's a dreamer. I'm a dreamer, worse than most people, but that's me. But I find a way to get to that dream, and it'll drive me crazy, but I'll get there, and it'll take me a long time. So you can, I don't want to say befriend, but if you look at journalists as an example that do stories on these companies, those companies never really befriend them. They only ask them for, hey, can you do an article on us, or here's what we're doing if you find it interesting. You can bring them into your organization in some facet where they're also part of something that they believe in. Another thing, obviously, I think LinkedIn is one of the most incredible platforms. If used correctly, you will ever find. I don't use Facebook. I don't use Instagram. We have a big music and media division, so Twitter is very relevant, and I love their management team. But as a company, as an entrepreneur, you should live on LinkedIn. Obviously, being part of Hype, you have their access and their Rolodex to help you succeed. But one thing on LinkedIn that's very successful: follow people that you want to work with, connect with them. Even if they're not following you, write a post write it in your mind that you're actually speaking to that CEO or that CTO or their chief marketing officer, whoever you want to really speak with, tag them in your post and speak to them in your post without them really knowing it, and build a relationship with them. And then if you connect with them, and I guarantee if you do it right, you will, you can find a way to bring them in and say, hey, listen, this is our company. We have an advisory board position open. Would love for you to join the team. And you know, unless you're doing something that they don't believe ethically or morally right, who would not want to help you? It's how you ask and how you present is everything. It doesn't matter if they're the Bill Gates of the world or somebody that has nothing. It's how you present what you want to accomplish. And I preach, you have to be genuine. I just preach that all the time. Hopefully you're feeling my vibe through this call. I'll tell you the worst stories and scars I've ever been through. I'm not a self-promoter. I've been through hell, and I weathered the storm. I'm here for a reason, and connecting with people like you gives me that fuel that's my reason. And all the other stuff is just to share my stories, guide people. But, you know, more importantly, I also have to be very careful because I have to bite my tongue sometimes, because it's very important for entrepreneurs and everybody on this webinar. You need to go through hell. You need to get your ass kicked a little bit, because that's all part of the journey. That's all part of the training. If it was handed too easily, you won't appreciate it. You won't understand a problem when it arises. And if you build a big organization without being well prepared, it falls apart very quickly. So I have to also sometimes learn to take a back seat as to how I give advice or guidance, because I want people to experience life. It's very important. But I suggest, again, use me, use the Hype team, and just reach out to people that you'd be honored to have them join your team.
Yeah, that's great.
It'll work. It'll work.
Thank you very much for that. And I'll take you up on your offer if that's okay with you.
Absolutely, please.
Yeah, thank you. Thank you very much.
My pleasure. Thank you for your question.
Do you have any other LinkedIn tips, Brian? Because I'm already doing the one that you do. I'm curious, what are your other top tips?
I have a lot. So you got to get somebody in the moment is the holy grail. So if someone that you admire, want to work with, if they post, well, they're in front of their LinkedIn at that moment. And if you get them the moment they post, because it's just fate or I don't believe in coincidence, so let's just say it's fate. If you comment, like, reshare, and connect, there's a really strong possibility that you guys will be able to have a conversation right then and there. Especially if you reshare what they post. Everybody has an ego. I try to keep mine as low as possible. I try to bury it. I don't want an ego at all, but we all have one. On LinkedIn, if someone is taking the time and posting something, I don't care if they're the CEO of Verizon or if they're a startup of a juice company, they want to be seen and heard. So if you can be there in that moment and like it and comment on it and reshare it, you're stroking their ego, you're making them feel good. But again, it's all about the approach. Everything is about how you present yourself, how you want to share your energy through a virtual platform, and then how you're supporting their post. That's all part of the relationship building. You may need to do that for a year before that person says, who is this guy or who's this girl that's always commenting and liking and following me? Let me see what they're all about. And I guarantee if it takes a day, it takes a year, that strategy works, and you will make an impact. But don't do it too soon. And one of the biggest things I've learned as a connector is I know exactly how to connect A and B to make Z. It's just how my mind works. But the timing is everything. So I sometimes have to wait. Okay, it's not the right time. I've done that before too soon, and it was a waste of everybody's time. It just fell apart. So as it relates to connecting with people you may want to connect with that may be a big organization or run a large company, don't do it until you're ready. If they bite and it was too soon, you may lose an opportunity. So make sure that you are ready to rock and you can perform and you have the resources to give that potential partner or that potential customer everything you got. That's when you go all in on a platform like LinkedIn, and that's when you start to make that connection.
Thank you.
Did that help?
That was a very good one.
Okay, good. Thank you.
Can I say something?
No.
Yes, and then we'll move to Francesco and Annalisa.
Yeah, just about this, like, for example, I found this Games for Change thing in LinkedIn, and then I saw a lady who's running it. So I sent her a LinkedIn connection request, and well, she replied, and now we're having a talk very soon. So yeah, so I think also children are actually very good at this. They meet another person, they get along, they just start playing. If they don't get along, they go the other direction. So it's kind of like, yeah, having the same mindset that, okay, this might work, and just give it a shout. Like you said, we're all human. So
Yeah, don't be intimidated or afraid to do that. I found, I don't know if you ever tried to message somebody that you're not connected with, and it's actually like a more formal email introduction. That I don't think is very successful at all. I would follow them. I would comment on their stuff until you actually form that connection, and then do a message thread. I would veer away from doing a I don't know what it's called, but it's a message, but it's not the typical message. It's more of an email format through LinkedIn. So my suggestion is don't do that, from my experience.
Thank you. Francesco, Annalisa?
Brian, terrific presentation. I'm very impressed. I love the way you are, escalating to another plane and looking things from 3,000 feet from the ground and be able to make a connection because you got the big picture. You are very inspirational for me. I really, really, really appreciate that. And one question. At a certain point, however, you are building not only just one organization, which need to scale, but even several organizations from what I'm seeing from your LinkedIn and from your from what you were telling in this webinar. So I'm wondering, for now we found this small recipe that empowering people of a team, everyone of a team usually works. But how do you manage? Do you have insight on how to proceed on massive scaling? Because that is what is really impressive. You are, you find a recipe for doing, on scale. So yeah, just wondering how you do that.
Yeah, it depends on your company, Francesco. So again, early on, I tried to control every aspect of the organization. And I don't mean it as a dictator, but let's just say one of our e-commerce platforms. I built the site. I taught myself the code. I was back there packing orders. I was answering customer service. I was doing all the shipping and receiving. I was going out and bringing on brands and meeting with people. That's exhausting and impossible to scale, to your point. As you build these organizations or these companies, or you start working with these teams, find out what the core, again, my opinion, other companies do this very well and differently, but my opinion is, what is your core? And your core can be a very small, powerful team. And then outsource correctly everything else that needs to get done. Let experts in those industries handle certain aspects of the business. It's going to be a much smaller fee than hiring more people. You have a less liability because that role and that job is now on a credible company that's now handling that aspect of the business. And maybe as you grow, you pull back and you bring those jobs into your organization if you want to have more control. But starting out, depending on what your company is, so it's hard for me to give you an exact example, focus on what you love. Focus on what drives you, what your passion is in your company. That should be your job. Everything else that causes you stress, everything else that makes you not sleep at night, find other organizations, companies, or someone else to handle that, because it's taking the wind out of your sail. You need to, as creators, as entrepreneurs, as founders, you gotta always focus on what you love. Otherwise, you're gonna just it's gonna eat away at you. So like, I should have never been answering customer service questions, because I know, because the way my mind works back then, I packed that person's order. I know they got what they got. And I got this person lying to me while I'm answering their email that they didn't get it. And I can't call them a liar. I have to go and ship it again. And so things like that, that ruined my whole day. And that was, shame on me. I let one person get away with something and ruin my day. So if I'm answering your question correctly, how you scale depending on your resources, there's a really good model in picking what your core team does, do it best, and find other companies to handle the rest of the load until you get going. And again, if you want to bring everything back in-house, do it once you're cash flowing positive and creating larger revenues.
I love it. Very, very good answer. So it's not just about scaling the team, but find the right partners who can help you. And then when you want that back and the revenue permit that, try to scale back the team.
Yeah.
Wow. Cool. Thank you, Ryan.
Thank you. Pleasure to speak with you.
Pleasure.
So thank you, Francesco and Annalisa. We have 5 more minutes. Brian, what would you like to do with them?
I guess the last point, something I'm very good at. In heart, I'm a marketer. That's what I love to do. I love to market a brand, a tech, a company, and give it a cool name, give it a great story. That's all so important to everybody on this webinar. Whatever you're doing, the story is everything. Just like watching a movie that you love. You don't watch movies that have a bad story. You don't finish them. You hate them. So your company, your service, your product, your tech, it's got to have a great kick-ass story. And all of that is obviously you as the founder. I always believe founders should be the faces of their company. A lot of people don't do that, and it's disheartening because they don't have the confidence, or maybe they don't have the right support team behind them. But nobody can describe what you're building better than you. That's it. You know why you did it. You know why you borrowed money to go start building it. You know why you wanted to do it. And that should always be your story. So that's the foundation. Next is finding people like me where let's put some fuel under that fire. What else can we do to fuel your story? What other companies can we partner you up with? What other use cases can your tech or your products fill that maybe you weren't thinking about or that you didn't have access to? There are good people out there that want to help, and I assure you, but you're going to have to go through some crappy people to get there. And when you find that person, it's, the sun comes out that day, and it's a great feeling. But again, the journey is so important. You have to go through people that aren't there for the right reasons. You have to go through people that don't add any value or help, because now you know what to look for. So everybody you meet, whether they were a home run for you or not, you have to thank them for being part of that journey. They added value, if it wasn't monetary value, it was a learning lesson. And that may save you millions in the future. That may save you hours of heartache in the future. And that's something you can never get back. So, thank the bad people out there that have affected you. That's what I've come to terms and do. And I think the story is so important, more important than even the creation, because you want to get people addicted to your story. And founders, you need to be the ones out there preaching it and telling it and fueling it. Anything else, Eleanor?
I see that Luke is applauding. Anyone has any last comments he would like to share? I see that a lot of people are asking me in a private note to connect with you after this.
You can find me on LinkedIn, Brian J. Esposito, EIE.rocks. I can go back here. That's my website. I get back to everybody immediately. And
I can say that Brian is very, very active on LinkedIn.
Yeah, it's a good go-to, and I strongly suggest everybody focus on that. As a company, you may have your Instagram account, your Facebook accounts, and there's so much to manage. But if you focus on LinkedIn and do it correctly, you can be very successful.
Brian, I have another question.
Yeah, hit me.
Who do you learn from? Who are your role models in terms of networking, but also other things?
Yeah, I always find myself quoting Henry Ford, although obviously I didn't know him personally. I'm a little too young for that, but kind of my role models lately are people like you, because it reminds me of what I was doing when I was doing it. I don't read any motivational books. I don't follow like the Gary V's of the world. Like that's not my lane. I love being in the trenches with people, and you know my role models are sitting and speaking with you, and finding ways where we can both work together and add value to each other's vision. So I know it's a bad answer to your question, but I don't. I wish I had a role model. I mean, my dad was always my role model. Very successful entrepreneur and did great things for his time in his industry. So I always obviously looked up to him and wanted to surpass him and what he accomplished. But other than that, I wish I did, but I don't have a typical role model or a visionary that I live and breathe. It's real people like you.
And do you have a goal for yourself where you wanna reach? Like,
I think I'm
don't know.
doing it. I think I'm doing it now, which is finding a way to help startups and even large enterprise companies that are failing. How I can come in and help them exist. So I think I'm living my goal now, which is finding it's very rewarding for me to be able to connect people and help them accomplish their dreams. So I guess I'm living vicariously now through other people's aspirations and helping them.